The other day, I was kind of scrolling through Reddit, as I do, and I came across this story of a bunch of QAnon people in Dallas, Texas, wandering around aimlessly. I'm showing it on screen here. Wandering around aimlessly at the grassy knoll where JFK died. And it turns out they were waiting there for John F. Kennedy Jr. to appear. By the way, John F. Kennedy Jr. died in a plane crash like decades ago. Dude's dead. So I started researching this, trying to understand what the conspiracy was. I wanted to know what was in their head. And I regret it. I regret getting into this. But I have to say, it's an endlessly entertaining story, if not endlessly sad, because people really do believe this shit. That's really, really sad to me. But like I said, there is an entertaining element. So I wanted to dive into QAnon this episode, this clip, and see what's going on. So let's read this article. It's by independent.co.uk. The title is Why Some QAnon Believers Think JFK Jr. is Still Alive and About to Become Vice President. After that, I wanted to look at another article titled The Passion of the Christ actor Jim Caviezel tells QAnon conference to send their enemies back to hell where they belong. I don't know if you guys remember Jim Caviezel, but he played Jesus in The Passion of the Christ, I believe. If you were religious in the 2000s, 2010s, you probably saw that movie. I didn't. It was rated R, and it was kind of from Christendom, as Jehovah's Witnesses call it, but it was a big fucking deal for a lot of churches. So this guy is extremely important in Christian circles. So I wanted to give this video a watch too. But like I said, before we watch that, let's read this article about why QAnon was meeting on the grassy knoll waiting for John F. Kennedy Jr. to show up. This is on independent.co.uk. Let's read it. Conspiracy theorist group QAnon hit a bizarre milestone on Tuesday when its supporters gathered for what they believed would be the return of the late JFK Jr., who they postured would be running on an imagined 2024 ticket with former President Donald Trump. John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr.'s plane was pulled out of the Atlantic Ocean more than 22 years ago in a crash that killed him, his wife Carolyn, and his sister-in-law, Lauren Bassett. For some QAnon true believers, though, the son of the 35th President of the United States not only survived the tragedy, but is poised to make a dramatic return to public life. A bizarre theories emerged suggesting that the accident was just a ruse to fake his death and that he will re-emerge perhaps as early as next month to join a reinstated President Donald Trump as vice president. I thought, this is just another stupid conspiracy theory. Like, how many people are really buying this, right? A lot of fucking people are buying this right now. This is video of the crowd that showed up at the grassy knoll to wait for John F. Kennedy Jr. to appear with Donald Trump to declare they're running for office in 2024. Look at this shit. That's a lot of fucking people. That is a lot of fucking people.
Sorry, I'm not late.
They're all there waiting for John F. Kennedy Jr. to show up. Dude's been dead for decades, and they think he's gonna show up. Let's keep reading the article. And those devotees gathered on Tuesday for what they expected would be a dramatic revelation at the AT&T Discovery Plaza in Dallas, but was in fact more of a damp squib. Wow, I don't think I've ever heard that word before. When JFK Jr. unsurprisingly failed to make an appearance, people in the crowd suggested he would in fact make an appearance at a Rolling Stones concert later that day. Of course, he also failed to attend that event. But that hasn't stopped people from speculating that the deceased Kennedy is still alive. A viral video has even shown a middle-aged man that some QAnon devotees claim is JFK Jr. himself. Check this shit out. This is an actual video. It seems like satire. It seems like a parody. This is real. These are two QAnon guys that believe that this guy is John F. Kennedy Jr. walking out of, I think, CPAC?
It's him,
It's JFK
back.
Jr.
You're back.
Holy shit, dude.
No way.
I'm all right, man.
It is unbelievable
believe
to
this,
see
dude.
you.
I don't know who you are, man. Oh, he's filming me. We got to get
Are
going.
you JFK Jr.?
You
Just
are,
yes or no?
please tell us.
How did you survive the plane crash, or was it just faked?
We got to get going.
Just be honest, be
Just
honest,
be
be
honest.
honest.
Wink twice if you're
give me a
JFK
card,
Jr.
I'll be
Blink twice if you're JFK Jr.
1, 2, 1, 2,
Yeah.
1, 2. See how he does
Dude,
it?
that was fucking incredible.
crazy.
Can you believe that? No.
You never know who you're gonna run into in there. You
JFK
never-
Jr. was over there. John F. Kennedy Jr. He was here.
Yeah, sure. How about Elvis? Elvis
You're
lived
making
in
you're making a joke. I'm
Of
talking
course I
about QAnon, who is John F. Kennedy Jr., who faked his own death because the Hillary Clinton was trying to kill him.
about, you know,
He's
that's why I'm
right
talking
over
about
there.
Elvis.
Right over
Just
there.
go catch
That's why
up
I'm
to him.
talking
I
about
feel like
Elvis.
you're not taking this seriously.
Yeah. Whether or not this was real, it doesn't matter. QAnon circles have latched onto it and actually believe that this guy on screen is JFK Jr. They believe this video, unironically. That's where we are now with QAnon. That's the level that we're at this point, where they believe they found JFK Jr., they believe that he's going to run for office as Donald Trump's vice president, and they're so devoted to that idea that they actually gathered in a crowd at the grassy knoll to wait for his return. That's fucking unhinged. That's not actually the only QAnon news that I have for you guys today. There's another article, as I mentioned earlier, about the actor that played Jesus on The Passion of the Christ, the movie that Mel Gibson himself directed back in, 2000s or 2010, somewhere in there. I think it was the early 2000s. Jim Caviezel, Jesus Christ himself, appeared at a QAnon conference, and he had some shit to say. Let's give this a listen and see what he had to say for himself. This is late October 2021 when this clip came out.
Fight and you may die. Run and you'll live. For at least a while. And dying in your beds many years from now, would you have been willing to trade all the years from this day to that for one chance? Just one chance to come back here and tell our enemies that you can take our lives, but you can never take our freedom.
Oh, please. Oh my God, this is so cliche, it's hard to listen to.
That you can take our lives, but you can never take our freedom. Every man dies. Not every man truly lives. You. We must fight for that authentic freedom and live, my friends. By God, we must live. And with the Holy Spirit as your shield and Christ as your sword, may you join Saint Michael and all the angels in defending God and sending Lucifer and his henchmen straight right back to hell where they belong.
They're unhinged, dude. They are completely fucking unhinged from reality. Like I said, it's sad, but I will be damned if it's not entertaining as hell. All right, let's read the article on The Independent and see what it has to say. The Passion of the Christ actor Jim Caviezel delivered a bizarre speech to a QAnon conference, repeating word for word Mel Gibson's famous battle cry from Braveheart. Again, Mel Gibson actually directed The Passion of the Christ, I believe, so I don't know, there's some weird link there. Mr. Caviezel was speaking at the Forgotten Country Patriot Double Down Convention held in Las Vegas, where he claimed there was an ongoing religious war between Satan and liberal values. He mimicked the fiery speech given by Mr. Gibson's character William Wallace before a battle with the English in his 1995 film Braveheart, including the famous line, "You can take our lives, but you can never take our freedom." Wow, was that like a close parallel? I didn't realize that it was, I wonder if I can pull up the whole Braveheart speech. Like, what was the full speech transcript? Yeah, okay. Fight and you may die, run and you'll live. Wow, this is a direct quote from Braveheart. Are you fucking serious? That is lazy. This is a direct quote from Braveheart. I fight and you may die, run and you'll live, at least a while. And dying in your beds many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance? Just one chance to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom. That's a direct fucking quote. That is lazy. And it wasn't even acted that well. That is fucking bizarre.
Beds many years from now, would you have been willing to trade all the years from this day to that for one chance? Just one chance to come back here and tell our enemies.
Wow. Is he not going to get sued for, like, theft of intellectual property or something? That is bizarre, man. The 53-year-old went on to share familiar QAnon themes about child and religion. We must fight for that authentic freedom and live, my friends. By God, we must live, and with the Holy Spirit as your shield and Christ as your sword, may you join Saint Michael and all the other angels in defending God and sending Lucifer and his henchmen straight back to hell where they belong. he told the audience. He ended the speech to thunderous applause with the QAnon motif that the storm is upon us. The storm is commonly referred to in QAnon folklore as the Judgment Day, when Donald Trump orders the arrest of a cabal of celebrities, deep state officials, and Democratic politicians who they believe are running a transnational child ring. That's a really good word for it. The storm is kind of like the Judgment Day when Donald Trump orders the arrest of the cabal. I like that. That's actually a really good comparison. QAnon does follow a lot of religious themes. You know, they're kind of waiting for the end to come. They're waiting for the storm to hit so that all of these people will be arrested and face consequences for their terrible actions, which, by the way, they've never even proven are taking place, or who's even doing them if they are. But, you know, that doesn't matter. Evidence is irrelevant. When you're in a conspiracy theory like this, or a conspiracy group, all evidence, or even no evidence, backs up your already held belief. You actually receive evidence against what you believe? That's simple. It's easy to explain. The deep state is covering their tracks by planting fake evidence to throw you off their trail. You discover that there's no evidence for what you believe. That's just because the deep state is covering it up too well. Every piece of evidence, whether it contradicts what you believe or not, adds to your belief. That's the kind of mindset these people are in. It's nearly impossible to break them out of it. We need to work on critical thinking education in schools. We need to teach kids how to think critically. That's why we're in the situation we're in right now, in my opinion. Let's keep reading. The speech had been viewed 1.5 million times in a clip posted to the Patriot Takes Twitter account on Tuesday. Some commented that it illustrated an intersection between religious extremism and QAnon. Quote, "It's an example of a large-scale spiritual warfare delusion that predates QAnon by decades and is believed by millions more," wrote Matthew Sheffield. Interesting. This is a quote from Matthew Sheffield's Twitter account. "The deranged rant just delivered by Jim Caviezel, the Christian extremist actor, sounds like a bunch of random nonsense. Instead, it's an example of a large-scale spiritual warfare delusion that predates QAnon by decades and is believed by millions more." Jim Caviezel also had a whole bunch of little call-outs, little dog whistles, little quotes in there that he used. I mean, that's kind of how QAnon talks go. That's how they do it. Mentions of the storm and mentions of the cabal and all that stuff. Little tiny dog whistles that most people won't pick up on unless you're in the QAnon movement. This is the end of the article. Mr. Caviezel played Jesus Christ in the 2004 movie The Passion of the Christ, directed by Mr. Gibson, and also appeared in the TV drama Person of Interest. Fascinating. How do we solve this problem? We are in a boatload of trouble right now with the level of extremism that we find in the U.S. We have to work on critical thinking skills for kids in school. How can anybody fight against teaching kids critical thinking? I know Republicans and Trump extremists would find a way to fight that, but it seems like, at its face, something that everybody should ostensibly be able to agree on.